Hi guys, it has been a minute since I filmed, so I wanted to come on here and give an update. I'm officially 1 year post-op from my first surgery, so I feel like it would be a good time to kind of give an update on how that has been going. Yeah, things have been going a lot better. I've been so much better than I was a year ago. I've been in law school actually. I just started in August, so I just finished my first semester, which is really exciting. So I've been super busy with that, and yeah, I survived the semester. I feel really good about it. And yeah, so that's been what I've been spending my time on, which is obviously so much better than spending time on getting surgeries and thinking about my health and stuff. So that's why I haven't been posting at all. But since it has been a year, I feel like I have obviously more clarity and perspective on the surgery. And I can really safely say that I am very thankful that I had it and that it was definitely worth it. But I wanted to, yeah, kind of dive into what the recovery looked like and also just kind of recap what I had done. It's been so long. So my first surgery was my frontal nerve decompression surgery. So I should have looked up these nerves again before I filmed. I think I remember it was supraorbital, supratrochlear. Those are the two that come out of your brow bone into your forehead. I had those on both sides, and then auriculotemporal on the sides, on both sides, and then so it ended up being six nerves total. I had compression coming from my brow bone, so the nerves were being squeezed by my bone, so he shaved and broke my brow bone on both sides. And I have two incisions here, two here, and then these ones are looking a lot better. I can still see them. I feel like other people that would never notice them if they didn't know they were there. But yeah, so I had that on December 7th of 2024, and it was horrible. It was the worst experience of my life, literally. But a year out now, I can really say it was worth it. So going into surgery, I had migraines and headaches my entire life, but going right up into surgery, I'd had an acute migraine for 6 months straight. And so even with being in so much pain before surgery, I was really still surprised by how bad the recovery was. I don't think I was prepared for that. I think in terms of technique and skill, my surgeon is the best in the country, but I did not feel prepared for what I was undertaking, and I did not feel as if I had a grasp on really what the recovery would be like. I think because I was already in so much pain, I'm like, whatever, it can't be worse, but it was worse. Which is why when people ask me, like, I've received some messages and emails and things from people who've asked, like, should I get surgery or would you recommend? Or I would say your quality of life needs to be non-existent before surgery to make it worthwhile, because your quality of life after surgery is going to be non-existent for probably at least 6 months. So I just feel like I was not accurately told about how brutal that recovery would be like. My surgeon said at the 3-month mark you should be seeing drastic improvement. For some people, I'm sure that is the case. For me, that was not the case. It really took until 6 months until I saw a difference, and I would say I was still seeing a difference in the front up until like the 9 or 10 month mark. And then at 1 year, the results are pretty much fixed at that point, and I don't have any healing pains anymore in the front. I don't have any weird tingles or electrical pains or anything like that, but it really did take almost a full year for that to subside. So yeah, I would say if you're considering it did help significantly, but it is horrible. And just the pain of having my brow bone broken, the pain, in my face that radiated into my eyes, the swelling, just the cosmetic effects of it all. Yeah, if you don't already want to kill yourself before surgery, I don't think you should do it. Like, if your migraines are at the point where you can still push through, you can still work, you can still go to school or whatever, I would not recommend pausing to get this surgery. If your life has already stopped because of your pain, then I would recommend looking into it at that point. But it is absolutely a last-ditch effort, and I don't know, sometimes the discussion around migraine surgery is almost, I think, too casual in terms of, migraine surgeons obviously want more people to get the surgery, but I feel like they can be a little bit casual with saying, if you have headaches and migraines, like, you should get the surgery. Whereas I would say if you just have, headaches and migraines occasionally, absolutely not. But if you have really significant pain that is, you know, impacting your ability to function at that point, I do think it would be a wise thing to look into. But just be prepared that the recovery is terrible. But in terms of the difference that I felt, I think I've said this before on here, but the main thing that has changed for me in the past year is that my head doesn't throb the way that it used to. So before surgery, so I had blood vessels wrapped around my nerves, and that was the biggest source of my pain. I also had, like I said, I had the bone compression, I had some muscle fascia compression as well, but my main problem was the blood vessels wrapped around my nerves causing throbbing. And so anytime go away, so annoying. Anytime I would do anything remotely active, even just walking or anything, anytime my heart rate got higher, my head would just pound and pound and pound. It does not do that anymore. I mean, I have had some migraines where it is pounding, but it's an acute migraine that's pounding. It's not like a state of being, you know, like my head was always pounding, and it's not anymore. And so that's a huge improvement in terms of functionality, in terms of what I can get done in a day, because if I have a dull headache, it's more like annoying, or, you know, I can kind of compartmentalize it. I can kind of push it to the back of my mind. If it's throbbing, it's scary when it's throbbing because you're always just waiting for it to get worse. So that's the biggest improvement I've felt in terms of quality of pain. I have also felt a difference in terms of severity of pain. So over the past few months, my baseline has been slowly coming down. I would say I'm at a 7 now. But I do have days that are lower than that. I do have days that are coming in at 6s, which is the lowest I've ever felt in my life. So yeah, it is a pretty drastic improvement. Obviously, still very hard. I think at this point, I'm just coming to terms with, you know, how much residual pain I will have and how I can manage it. I will say another thing is that medication that didn't work for me in the past has been more helpful now. I've been on everything under the sun, and I never really had any improvement with any sort of medication, but I will say, like triptans, for example, which are abortive migraine pills, those work for me so much better than they used to. They actually work as they were intended. You're supposed to take them when you feel a migraine coming on, but I was in an acute migraine flare for months on end, so I never had a beginning of the migraine. I was just in the migraine, so the triptans really weren't functioning as they really should, because I was taking them when I'm in the acute flare, and you're supposed to take them when you feel it coming on. And now I'm kind of learning like what it feels like to have a migraine come on, because I'm not always having a migraine anymore. Like I have breaks in between my migraines, and so that's a really huge thing. And then I also have a lot less frequency in terms of like full-blown migraines. I also haven't had a 10 out of 10 migraine probably since June. I had a really awful flare in June that really set me back. I think that was the last time it was genuinely 10 out of 10, like awful. I do have some 9s, you know, some migraines that are 9s out of 10, but like I said, I take the triptans and usually that'll knock it. I haven't lost an entire day to a migraine in months. I've definitely had mornings where I wake up and I'm like, I can't do this. And then I take the triptan and I wait, and then I'm okay, I can push through. Or I have days where I sort of choose to stay in bed or choose to be more low key. But in terms of like purely being forced to be bedridden, I have not experienced that in several months. And I'm just so much busier, so much more active than I used to be. I went on a run a couple days ago for the first time in over a year. That was really exciting. Like I said with the throbbing earlier, like the biggest change is that I feel like I can be physically active without it tipping over that edge. I was saying this to a friend the other day, but I feel like my whole life I was held like sort of right at the precipice where like any little trigger and I'm falling off the edge and it's flaring and it's terrible. But now I feel like here's the top, and I feel like I'm like right here. I'm like a little bit below the top. I feel like I have a little more room to kind of play with and mess with before I get up to that sort of emergency level, and I can sort of feel it rising and do what I need to do to prevent it now, which is not something I was able to do before because it was always so bad. It was always an emergency. It was always acute. And I just feel like I have a little bit more moment to breathe now than I did. I started feeling real improvements in October, and I started school in August, so the first couple months were very hard. I don't think anyone else would have gone. There were days I should have been in the hospital, but I didn't miss a single day of class. My head hurt so bad. I remember waking up day 2 of orientation, I woke up in so much pain I threw up, and then I went to orientation and no one knew. And that happened several times throughout the semester. I'd wake up in so much pain I would literally throw up, and then I would just go and I would do it, and I just told myself it has to get better, and it did get better. In October, like I was saying, I started to feel a real improvement, like a real tangible difference, and that has continued to improve from there. So going into the school year, my baseline was an 8. I would say now it's a 7, but I do feel like it is coming down farther, and I feel like my flares get less intense and less intense, and it is definitely overall a net positive change. Now, I did have 2 surgeries, so I might make another video at my 1-year mark of my second surgery, because it was a completely different experience in terms of healing, and just like the experience of getting the second surgery was very different than the first. But so I'll probably make a video just about that, and that would be at the end of March. But I do think the cumulative effect of the 2 surgeries is really what did the trick for me. If I had just had the front done, I don't think I would have felt that much improvement, but because I had both, it's hard to separate, what improvement is actually coming from the front, because the occipital nerves radiate pain forward. So it's like maybe the pain in my temples is better because I got the second surgery and not the first, but I think it was a cumulative effect. I will say my forehead is a lot better. I don't really have pain in my forehead. The reason I know that is because when I do have pain in my forehead, I notice it, and it's almost abnormal. It's like, oh, my forehead hurts today. Like, that's not normal for me now, whereas, before it used to be constant. And he said I was probably born with that deformity in my brow bone, and so I do think I've had that sort of headache every day, like literally since I popped out of the womb. But that is better. Definitely I feel like it's just looser. And another thing I was sort of worried about with surgery. So for so long I was just swollen and, awful, but I can raise my eyebrows a little bit, like not super high, but I'm not like completely, it doesn't look like I've had Botox in my forehead, like I can make facial expressions, which is something that I was worried about. So in terms of the cosmetic effect, my eyes are definitely a little tighter. But I don't have, I'm not completely still or unable to move, which is really good. The scars are healing really nicely. It really is just getting through the period after surgery where your nerves freak out. And that period is months and months and months long. So it's really a marathon. But I mean, it was worth it for me. I didn't really have any other choice, and I had tried everything else, and so I think that has to be the place that you're at too. If you're thinking about getting it, have you tried everything else? Because if you haven't, if there's an easier fix, take the easier fix. Like this is really, it's intolerable. Like it is unbearable. It is truly unbearable. The toll it took on me mentally is something I'm still working through. The pain is so intense that it's almost like you can't even believe that pain can be that intense, and you're held in that space for months on end. It's not like you have one bad day. It's like you are in unbearable pain for months on end, because your nerves obviously freak out after surgery. They don't like to be touched. That's such a last resort. And so, it's really horrible. The healing is really, really horrible. I wish I had been better prepared for that. I would have still done it anyway, but I don't think anyone really talks about how bad the pain is. And I mean, it's not really a surgeon's job, I guess, to talk about the recovery. Like their job is to get in and do a good surgery, and then after that you're kind of on your own. And I do think my surgeon in terms of technique was the best he could have been, but it's a very isolating experience. It's very lonely, because obviously no one else is feeling that pain, and no one has ever felt that pain. The headaches that I have had, no one else in the world has ever had them. You know what I mean? Like the pain of getting your nerves touched, of getting your brow bone broken and shaved. If you haven't had that specific experience, you cannot even fathom what that would be like. It is just, it's I don't even know. I'm still trying to process that, obviously. But yeah, I mean, things are so much better. I am so much better, and I have such a good quality of life. But it is still hard, and I'm still trying to figure out what my next steps are. I did get Botox in my temples, which is actually the muscle that controls chewing, because I have TMJ, but Botox in the jaw doesn't usually work for people because it's usually not even coming from the jaw. It's actually coming from up here. And I've only had one round of that, but that actually did help significantly. And then what else? Oh, I'm on a Jovi, which is a monthly migraine injection. I don't know if the Jovi is helping or if it's just the surgery is helping, but either way, my migraines have been way less frequent and way less severe. And so I'm going to stay on that for a little bit. At some point, I would like to get off of it. One of my goals for the new year is to get off of all medications and just really truly see what my baseline is. But I'm on gabapentin. I'm down to 600 milligrams. I was on 900 for a while. I don't like taking it, but it does help significantly. But I'm actively trying to wean off of it. I'm starting a new semester on Monday, so it's probably a terrible time to be trying to get off of my gabapentin. But I just worry it makes me a little slower, and I obviously want to be as sharp as I can be in law school. So that's a goal. Besides that, I take elatriptan as needed. That's my favorite abortive. That's been working really well. And then Excedrin migraine, and then marijuana. That's my number one. The number one thing I do that helps is take an edible at night to go to bed. That helps significantly. But yeah, I mean, I am managing to make it work. I feel like my pain is somewhat controlled. I don't like the phrase controlled pain. Doctors throw that around. It's like, yeah, if I controlled it, I wouldn't feel any of it. So truly controlled pain, it's like an oxymoron. Like if you're controlling it, you wouldn't even have the pain. But I do feel like it is somewhat more controllable than it was. It feels a little less random, a little less violent and unpredictable. It definitely feels more of like something that I'm able to sort of work around instead of fighting against. And that's also just a mental perspective and a mental change I've tried to make over the past year. But yeah, I mean, it's a night and day difference from where I was a year ago. And I'm really grateful I got the surgery. I think it helped a lot. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to say. Yeah, basically, if you are thinking about it, if you're considering it, really, really understand what the aftermath is like. I've gotten some emails from people too being like, how much time should I take off work for this? And it's like, if you're able to work, I don't know if you should get the surgery. And I can't speak for anyone else, but I mean, I don't know. For me, I had to be absolutely bedridden before surgery to even consider doing it because of how extreme it is. And in terms of taking time off work, I mean, I would have needed 6 months. I don't know if you have just 1 or 2 nerves that are compressed, maybe it's different. I had 12. But it is a significant undertaking, and it will knock you flat for a while. So just, I don't know, look into it, look up other people who've had the surgery. But yeah, honestly, for me, it really worked. I feel like this is what I've been looking for my whole life. I knew I had something very seriously wrong, and I knew that I was in pain that was not in my head. It was not psychosomatic. It was not, me trying to get attention. I always knew that there was something very, very wrong, and I ended up having 12 compressed nerves in my head, and I just been living like that my whole life. And yeah, so for me, this was literally an answer to prayer, and I'm so grateful that I was able to get the surgery. But yeah, it is very hard. There is another surgery I can get. I haven't had these 2 nerves. What are they called? Zygomaticotemporal. I haven't had these ones done yet. That's where I've been getting the Botox. So that for now is working, but eventually I would probably like to get those done. My next medical endeavor, though, is probably going to be back surgery. I've had just absolutely crippling back pain since the school year started. I've always had back pain. I was a figure skater for years, and so I took falls over and over and over on my right hip. And I have 2 bulging discs. I have compressed nerves, and then my hips are out of line. So I'm seeing a spine surgeon next week to talk about next steps for that. But honestly, at this point, my back is kind of worse than my head, at least in terms of number, like 0 to 10. But obviously a headache is just so much worse than anything else. Like back pain at an 8 versus headache at an 8, I'd take the back pain any day. But I am noticing like it really impacts my mobility, and walking is very hard. Everything hurts. So that's my next thing that I want to figure out probably before I go back to my head. And I don't want to make any decisions about a third surgery until I've reached the 1-year mark for my second surgery at the end of March. So we will see what happens with that. But for now, I feel like things are in a pretty stable place. Yeah, I mean, obviously I wish I didn't have to deal with any head pain, but in terms of what I was dealing with, it is so much better. And I'm able to mask it very, very well, which is always the goal for me. For some people, maybe masking is not helpful, but for me, that's how I kind of get through, is just by, I don't know, just being so just successful and hardworking and driven that no one ever questions whether or not I'm in pain. And going to law school, that was a big thing for me, is like I didn't really want anyone to know about it. I've told my close friends, but besides that, no one really knows, because I want to be successful by any standard, not just successful when you take into account that my head hurts all the time, but I just want to be normal and not have to make my pain such a big part of my life. It's always been the goal for me to not make it a part of my life at all. And that's not realistic either, but for me now, with the level that it's at, I can control it behind the scenes, and no one really has to know about it or talk about it or hear about it, which is the goal for me. So, yeah, it's just so much better than it was. It's night and day difference. And yeah, I'm really grateful for that. But I will try to make another video in March. The second surgery was very different, like I said, in terms of healing. It was less intense at the beginning, but it's been a longer healing process. I'm still really can't put pressure on the back of my head. So I'm hoping in the next 3 months that gets better, but I am seeing a real difference from the second surgery as well. And I think that the improvement I was seeing in October, November, December, I think is because I had both surgeries, not just because I had the first one. I think I needed both. And so, yeah, at the time I got the second one, I was very upset that I needed it, and it was very horrible. But looking back, I am really grateful to myself, honestly, for pushing through and getting another one 3 months after the first, just so I could, get back on my feet quicker, because it really has paid off. And I have 1 semester under my belt. I'm about to start another one. And yeah, things are looking up. Things are going well. It's been really, really hard to be in law school in so much pain. I definitely have struggled, and I have just wondered, would I be doing better if I wasn't in pain? Which probably, yeah, I'm sure I would be, but I'm doing well. We don't have grades back yet, so I can't tell you exactly how well I did, but yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys for watching. This is longer than I thought it would be. But yeah, things are a lot better, and I will try to make another video soon. Bye.